Yes, so you will be this armless, legless, faceless thing, won't you? Rolling down the street like a turd in the wind. Do you feel me?
What the hell are you?
We are Venom.
Back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai. Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
I just gotta say right up front, I just came back from a root canal, and I can't feel half my face.
Sick.
So,
hell yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. It's brought to you by codeine and amoxicillin.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Those are great sponsors.
Here we go. Yeah, so welcome back. We're on episode 13.
Episode 13.
Lucky 13.
Lucky number 13, for sure.
As they would say. We're fresh off of the release of Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yes. Literally me. I literally saw it probably 5 hours ago.
5 hours ago, so it's real fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on Thursday night. Yeah, I mean, first impressions before we get into stuff.
Very interesting.
Very interesting, yeah. Wacky fun. That's my response.
I love Tom Hardy as Venom.
Yes.
You can tell that he really loves the character.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad. It's
great.
always great
Yeah.
to have
the passion.
Yeah, like it's always great to have an actor that's passionate
Yeah.
about a certain character, because then even if the movie, if you think the movie maybe is like mediocre or not that great,
Yep.
at least you know that actor plays a great character.
Exactly. New news.
Oh.
We got news. Yes, friend. New listeners.
No, which country
I
is it
know.
now?
It's funny because I logged in this morning and I was like expecting to see the same blots all over the globe,
Yeah.
and then a new one popped up, and the heat map is surging. So we're getting more listeners in the States. So thank you to everybody who's jumped on board. But across the pond, believe it or not, my friends, we have new
New listeners.
Two-Face over here. We have new listeners in Croatia.
Oh my god!
I was like, first thought, I was like, wait, is Tomo traveling? But no, like, I'm pretty sure he's here. And so we have new listeners in Croatia.
Wow,
So
thank you.
I don't know that I can say this properly, but I can't say it.
Nice.
Hvala vam, which is thank you in Croatian. So thank you. I'm so sorry for the watching. I blame
I'm not even gonna attempt. Wow.
So hello and welcome to you all. But yeah, you know, like we just mentioned, this episode is all about Venom, and we're going to talk about Venom. We're going to talk about Eddie Brock and you know, his place in the Spider-Man universe, as well as, you know, the cinematic scape. But of course, as always, we're not experts, so you know, we're just a couple of fans having some dialogue about a character. If you have any corrections or questions or comments, please like shout us out on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, wherever you social media, because we're all on there and we'd love to hear from you. So yeah, that's it. Here we go.
Let's get into it.
And so Venom itself, I don't know how to actually proposition this like entity, because it is two people. Venom, we're going to talk about Venom as in Eddie Brock and the symbiote. And so Venom itself, himself, themselves, were created by the legendary Todd McFarlane. And so if you know Todd McFarlane at all, if you're into Spawn or you're into select like action figures, you know who Todd McFarlane is. And of course, because of Venom. And so Venom was created by both Todd and David Michelini.
Nice.
And it's worth noting that not to be confused with the alien costume. And so the symbiote, aka the alien costume, is the black outfit that Spider-Man wears. Okay?
Okay.
And that came 2 years before Venom/Eddie Brock. And so the first appearance of Venom is from Amazing Spider-Man number 299, which is an iconic issue, followed by another iconic issue, which was, of course, number 300 in 1988. And so these back-to-back issues were like full on. This is where kind of the root of these of Spider-Man and Venom being like the ultimate battle and like arch nemesis starts.
Okay.
And so yeah, the character itself got a cameo first in 299 and a full-on exposure to like battle mode in 300. And so thank God we have trading cards.
Oh, yes.
We're back
It's
on the
been a
trading
while,
cards.
actually.
It's been a while because like maybe Black Panther was the last one, I think.
Ooh, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Jessica didn't have one, Shang-Chi didn't have one. We did What If, and then we did Mini Marvel. So yeah, wow. And so I have 5.
Ooh.
And I actually think I had more, but they were like battle ones. So I was like, no, let me not pull those out. But they're again, for new listeners, I pull out trading cards from my collection when I was a wee lass. And these are predominantly from the 90s. I'm still trying to get some new ones. I did not win that auction, Jeffrey. I tried to get a set, I think it was 2020 Marvel Masterpieces or something. Oh my gosh. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, I do have 5 from the 90s. And so I'm going to pull one from Marvel Masterpieces 1992. We're going to see what this card says about Venom here. An unwitting act by Spider-Man destroyed Eddie Brock's newspaper career and forever turned Brock against the hero. The vengeful reporter then fell victim to the evil alien entity that had once posed as Spider-Man's costume. This led to the two combining their mutual hatred to form Venom, a vicious, superhuman creature seemingly composed of pure rage. Venom's sole purpose is to accomplish what the two beings who comprise him have separately failed to do: destroy Spider-Man.
Oh my God, interesting.
So, right off the bat, with your knowledge, and this is the interesting thing about this episode, on top of it all, this is the first character that we're actually creeping past the MCU and into Sonyverse full on.
Yeah.
Who, and so I kind of made Jeffrey rewatch or watch the first one. Had you seen it before you rented it?
I don't think I did. I think I've only saw like the clips on YouTube and stuff.
Right.
And then when we decided that we were doing it, I was like, okay, I should watch it.
Did you watch Spider-Man 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That's
so
an
we're covered
iconic
there.
movie.
Yeah. So what was your first exposure to this character?
It was definitely probably Spider-Man
3.
3.
Topher Grace.
Is it? Oh. Was he ever in like the old video games?
He was.
Forget.
He was in so many. He was in. I want to say he was in. No, he wasn't in X-Men versus Street Fighter. He was in Marvel versus Capcom for sure. One and 2 maybe.
Because like the early Spider-Man games that I remember were the Tobey ones. Like that, like on the PS2 and stuff.
Yeah.
And then where he would be swinging, but there's no buildings that he's swinging from. Like
that's the inside joke.
Like that's like what I remember. But I remember only fighting like Sandman in that game. But
then that means if you were playing a Tobey game and it was Sandman, that means 3. It was a 3 movie. 3 game. Sorry.
Maybe.
So maybe he was around.
I don't know. See, yeah, but seeing Venom on screen, it definitely had to be Topher Grace's portrayal of it.
Oh, that's so crazy.
And I mean, I just remember seeing like that movie getting a lot of flack. Spider-Man 3.
Can't imagine why.
Well, you looking back at it now in retrospect, it's like, I mean, did you see like what Sam Raimi said about like that movie?
I think I saw it.
It was he was saying he was like after seeing all like the negative stuff that people were writing about Spider-Man 3, he was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna touch another superhero movie.
It kind of drew him away from it.
Yeah, but lo and
entirely.
behold, now he's doing
Doctor Strange.
But
yeah.
But if you watch it again, it's like the movie's hilarious, man. It was just like a collection of just like memes.
For sure. Yeah. Oh god. Okay, so before we go into the whole Sonyverse sort of avenue, I mean, for me, sheesh.
Yeah.
He's another one of those characters growing up as a 90s kid that he was always there. I don't remember when the Venom was imbued upon me.
I've always viewed Venom as the sole villain of Spider-Man.
Oh, is that
like
right?
He was like the number one villain. No one else. It's always
so
Spider-Man.
Not even Goblin.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot, though. That says a lot about your generation, I think.
Yeah, like if I think of, you think of Venom, you think of Spider-Man, like, oh, like they go toe to toe.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's wholeheartedly true. And so, I think that was me too. I think it may have started with the cartoon series that I talked so fondly about in 1994. And so I have like his voice is very distinct to me based off of that. And also the video games, because he's like very, like, even in what little he speaks in Marvel vs. Capcom, he's just so, like, you could hear the thick New York accent. We are like the way Parker, like, he's got like a sort of guttural, like, punchy,
Yeah.
But let's rewind a bit and take it back to the black suit origin, sort of. I don't want to dive too deep into this because, like, it's exponentially huge. It's a huge storyline, and one that they've only started to kind of flesh out even more in the last year. But we're gonna take it back to the classic black suit. And so people, when you ask them like, oh, what's your favorite Spider-Man suit? Many will say the black suit. And not the Spider-Man 3 black suit, but like comic books, Spider-Man, Secret Wars, all black. And so the black suit itself was created by Randy Schueller, Roger Stern, Tom DeFalco, Mike Zeck, and Ron Frenz. And so this was, again, like I said, it was a couple years before Venom debuted as a character. And that was in Amazing Spider-Man 252, May 1984.
Okay.
And so this is all, I was like a literal baby when this all came out. And so I kind of missed the boat as far as like Secret Wars went and kind of like this emergence of these heroes in this scape. And so I went back because the 90s for me belonged to the X-Men. Like it was just X-Men all day for me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really read into any of this until much later, but the Venom itself, the symbiote, if you will, it's believed to be part of the 998th generation lineage of symbiotes. And I made a note to myself that when the first Venom film came out and the trailer with Jenny Slate, she iconically and memified herself by saying symbiotes. Do you remember that?
Oh my god! I when I watched it, actually, I was like, oh my god, Jenny Slate's in this movie. I was like, what?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like I couldn't tell you if they said it in the animated series. I'm pretty sure they did. They had to have said it at least once. But for someone to then take it 20 years later and then straight up call them symbiotes, it was kind of silly.
Yikes!
And then they made like a fake cereal called Venom Symbiotes. But
no.
Yeah, I know. I think Funko did it. It was really funny. I thought it was funny. I like dad jokes. But anyway, the symbiotes themselves were born on this planet called Clintar.
Yeah.
And so, Venom itself is kind of like the poster child of this planet in the universe. And Clintar, the name Clintar itself, is symbiote for cage. So it's an interesting thought of like, okay, how do we embody this species or this race of aliens whose planet is literally the definition of a cage?
Okay.
Which kind of lends to their way of clinging on to other things and the struggle for freedom, if you will. But yeah, so Clintar itself is a planet literally comprised of symbiotes. And so,
that's interesting.
Imagine, if you will, a giant...
So is this like a planet of sludge? Like,
well, they can take form.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we've seen this in all three films that Venom has been in. It kind of has a free-flowing form where it is sludge often, but sometimes it can make the little head, and it's got its white eyes and stuff. And it's an artificial planet located somewhere in space.
Okay.
And in the comic books, until recently, only one person knew or figured out where this planet was. Do you even want to give a shot of who it might have been?
Oh, like the hero who described it?
Who figured out where Clintar was?
I want to say, for some reason, I want to say Reed Richards.
I mean, that's a great thought. It was Thanos, actually. Thanos
that makes a lot of sense,
yeah,
too.
and that's a whole other, that's a whole other story. But the symbiotes were created by what we would call like their god named Null. And Null is a more recent character, just recently introduced. I want to say in the last year and a half, maybe, year and a half at most. And he created the species. I can't wait for your reaction to this. Null created the symbiotes in retaliation of these entities called the Celestials.
Oh my God! Wow. Jesus.
Yes. So we're expanding here. Geoffrey's just shaking his head. He's shaking his head.
So it really makes you think.
It makes you think, right? Like, what's happening here? And so the Celestials, for quick recap for those who aren't fully paying attention or need a refresher, Celestials have been introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy films as well as the upcoming Eternals film. And so Null creates these symbiotes. He's like, go forth, my children. And the first, simply known as All Black, cuts off the symbiote, the Celestial's head. Okay? The symbiote cuts off a Celestial's head, and it begins floating
to nowhere? Is that where it goes?
To later then be known as the floating entity called Nowhere. And so once again, I swear, like, I feel like I mention Nowhere every 2 episodes. And it's also the name of my Animal Crossing island. But that's another story for another day. I haven't played Animal Crossing for a year. But anyway, yes. Wow. So the very first, in the comic books, the very, very first symbiote created by Null was sent to battle the Celestial, beheads the Celestial, and then it becomes Nowhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine.
And so, again, if you want to read that, you gotta go into King and Black.
That's like way too perfect of a storyline for like what's happening and like the MC.
It's kind of like what I said before in a previous episode where they kind of start. You saw a point in time where Marvel Studios was very intent on doing comic adaptation to film.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, when things started to really get successful, you saw them do the vice versa. They started to adapt comics to the film. Film from the comics, and then comics from the film.
From the film, yes.
Yeah, and so they kind of switched places. And so I wonder if this is setting up stuff further down the line, or is this just a coincidence that they want to familiarize fans with, like, hey, fans know Venom, they're going to know Venom even more. Fans know Celestials a little bit, and they're going to know Celestials a little more. Let's just combine some forces and sell some books. But, that's another
symbiotes are powerful then.
Yeah.
Damn.
Incredibly powerful. And so we're going to fast forward a bit and once again, Secret Wars. And so Spider-Man discovers this, or not discovers, he happens upon this goop during Secret Wars while on Battle World. And so Battle World is like where they're sent to battle all of their foes and such. And he basically bonds to it and assimilates to his powers. And so the thing, it's the symbiote compound itself, the entity itself, it's more than just this goop thing. It's like quite literally an alien. So it's bonding to your DNA, it's bonding to your genome, it's bonding to every single facet of your physicality, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And so it enhances all of that stuff.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like how they said about Steve Rogers, the super serum like enhanced who he was. His symbiote bonded to Spider-Man. It enhanced what Spider-Man was. And so it essentially made him like the craziest version of Spider-Man that we generally ever see in anything, in comics and in the films, and not to dive too deep into Toby land, but yeah, you see it it takes over, it makes them much more powerful, much more like almost invincible in a way.
Yeah.
And so, like after a bit, Spider-Man is like, oh no, and he does the same thing in the movie. where he's like, oh no,
I can't do this.
I can't do this. This is bad.
It's not me. Yeah.
It's not me. And so he completely disengages with it, and so he's like, he abandons it, or they part ways, whatever you want to say, and that's it. It goes to find a new host. And then I wrote a fun fact here. So according to the 1995 miniseries Venom: The Hunger. Mm-hmm. And I believe they said this in the Carnage film, if not the first film also. But the symbiotes, like I mentioned, they feed off of this. Oh, I didn't mention this yet, but they feed off of the chemical called, here we go, can we say it? Phenethylamine. Hey.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, we did it. Okay.
That was good.
I can't do it again. I'm not going to try. Which is only available in brains and chocolate.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, and so,
oh my God.
And so I did a little research to kind of like dive into this a bit, because it is quite literally a line from the movie where it's like, it's only available in brains and chocolate, and this explains a lot about Venom, or the symbiote at least. And so, phenylethylamine itself is an organic compound, natural monoamine alkaloid, and trace amine, which acts as a central nervous system stimulant in humans.
This just became like a science show.
Just now? I'm failing. I gotta do more. No, but like legit. Like, so it's kind of like it sparks in the brain, receptors and such, blah, blah, blah. And so it's interesting that kind of compound is only found in the brain and in chocolate, which I assume is from the cacao and like when the chemicals awaken, whatever.
So he has a choice to either eat chocolate or humans.
Exactly. Or chocolate-coated humans.
It's gotta be double of that, man.
Exactly. Now you know what to get Venom for Valentine's Day. How much do you hate me right now? And so that explains a little bit about the symbiote itself, the standalone symbiote. And so from there, we're going to go ahead and talk about Eddie Brock a bit. We're going to get into him. And so he is like the primary host of this symbiote in life. Mm-hmm. There have been other hosts, and I'll talk about that a little later. But so Edward Charles Allen Eddie Brock, sometimes junior, depending on where you look.
Okay.
The film, he was a junior. He's not a junior in the books, as far as I understand. His first appearance was Web of Spider-Man number 18, September 1986. Once again created by Todd McFarlane and David Michelinie. And so, what do you remember about Eddie? Eddie as a character, aside Venom. What do you remember about Eddie?
Oh, he was, well, at least in Tobyland?
Anywhere.
Oh, well, in Tobyland is my only reference. So I just know that he just wanted to be better than Peter.
Than Peter, right.
So he wanted to be the better journalist. I want to get the recognition. Mm-hmm. And he just never made it on top.
That's pretty accurate. Honestly, it's pretty accurate because, like, in the books, the competitor to the Daily Bugle is the Daily Globe. And so Eddie essentially wrote for the Daily Globe, but he was, like, in charge of, like, the trash section. Sure.
The back pages.
Yeah, the back pages. Yeah. The stories that people don't really pay attention to. And so he had, like, as you mentioned, he's just kind of, like, trying to be the best and trying to be number one. And so the Sin Eater murders, and so somebody was, going by the moniker Sin Eater and just killing people. And so Eddie is contacted by this man named Emil Gregg, and it's so funny because, like, the panel of this guy, and he's like got like funny hair and glasses, and it's funny because I couldn't remember Phil Spector's name at first, and so I googled murderers with dumb hair. And you'd be surprised how many came up. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Greg, Emil Gregg, he claims, I'm the Sin Eater. I'm the Sin Eater. And I swear this is based off of a true crime story, and it just happens a lot. Like, there are these people, these individuals who thrive on the attention of, like, they're the killer. Like, I did it. And I think this was like BTK or somebody.
Okay.
But like a fake, a wannabe came to view and said, "Oh, I did these crimes."
Yeah.
And Eddie was like, "Sick! I'm gonna do the story." And so he starts doing these stories about like, the Sin Eater this, the Sin Eater that, and it starts to sell papers, and it's great. It's going good. Eddie's like, "Heck yeah, man!" And then inevitably he's pressured by officials and the paper. "Who is it? We know you know who it is. Who is it?" So he's like, "All right, it's Emil Gregg." And everyone's like, "Whoa, it's Emil Gregg!" And so he's like at the top of his game, and then here comes Peter Parker doing his job. And he's like, "I'm gonna write a paper for the Bugle, and it is not Emil Gregg. It is a policeman named Stan Carter."
Okay.
So it's then exposed that, okay, Brock sent everybody on a wild goose chase. You know, it comes with the territory. He wasted resources, etc., etc., etc. He's made a mockery of, and he's just fired. He's done. He's at the end of his rope. He's gone. Mm-hmm. And so, that's it. That's it for him. And he's like, "You know what? I've had a horrible life," because he comes from an abusive family and such.
They always do.
They always do, which is very similar to how they kind of explore his backstory and what little of it in the movies is that he comes from this broken home sort of thing, and so he's just like, "You know what? I give up." And I wanted to quote fandom real quick. It's just so funny. Their wording is very curious. It's funny. It fits very well. "Fired from the Daily Globe, he was forced to write venomous drivel for a tawdry tabloid." It's like, oh, you.
Someone just opened up a thesaurus.
I was like,
and I was like,
another word.
Here we go.
Yeah. But it's true. That's exactly what it was. He was, he went to tabloids, and he's like, oh, imagine him writing for the Inquirer. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, he, after all of this, he's like, "You know what? I give up on life. I'm gonna..." Jesus. And he was raised a Catholic, so knowing... Same. Yeah, I know, same. Despite the fact, and, in Catholicism, like, suicide is just something you don't do. All things about fiery hell and your spirit and soul and such. And so even beyond that idea, Eddie is like... he chooses to try and die by suicide. And so, of course, as fate would have it, that is when the symbiote comes in contact with him. It senses the anger, it senses the rage that's like surging in this man, and it bonds to it perfectly. And it feeds off of it. It feeds off of Eddie, and it feeds off of all of that. But this is on the heels of it leaving Spider-Man. And so the thing about the symbiotes is that... Did I say it like Jenny Slate?
Yeah. Oh.
No, I didn't.
No. Symbiote.
Symbiotes.
Yeah.
So the thing about the symbiotes is that it pulls over all of the characteristics of its first host.
Oh.
So
interesting.
In the comic books, that's why he has webbing. That's why he looks kind of the way he does, I guess. Which is why I think many fans who, follow the Sony films, you have the Topher Grace one, you have the Topher Grace one, who does have that kind of makes sense, because he was on Spider-Man first.
Yeah.
But then when you jump to Venom, there's no Spidey.
It's just straight up. Yeah.
So that was like a kind of like a huge criticism at the time.
Oh, okay.
Of like, how can you, and I said this in the mini Marvel, like, how can you have a Craven film without Spider-Man? And it was kind of the same idea, like, okay, Spider-Man 3 was one thing, but to then have a standalone Venom movie with no Spider-Man, and it's not taking place at, immediately after Spider-Man 3?
Yeah.
How can you do that? Because the symbiote does not have the characteristics of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So he can't whip, he can't do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
He's just this thing, so they kind of had to reintroduce that version of the character, which is like, cool, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And so, in the comic books, he bonds to this thing so severely that they become sort of like I guess you could call him a villain. And that bloodlust, the hunger that takes over Brock, like we see it do to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He eventually is like, this is too much for even me. and they part ways, quote unquote. He breaks up with the symbiote.
Wow.
And inevitably it comes back later on, and then they rejoin together, which probably sounds familiar. You know, like in the films, the new films with Tom Hardy, they break up and come back together like all the time. They're like a married couple, legitimately.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, in the comic books, you know, they reunite, and then he becomes the lethal protector of San Francisco. I
think that's where they're going. That's what I got from the Venom movies.
Yeah.
At least from the first one.
Yeah.
Like, because I was watching it, I was like, okay. I was like, I said this to Dai, like off mic. I was just like, it's basically a love story between Eddie and the symbiote.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a hero, anti-hero movie. It's just a love story.
And how many times do you hear that? How many times do you even hear that in normal conversation? Like, it's a symbiotic relationship. You know what I mean? And it's
they're made for each other.
Yeah, they're made for each other. And so now we're gonna jump into the theatrical side. And so our first introduction to Eddie Brock and Venom was, of course, Spider-Man 3 in 2007.
Oh yeah, the GOAT.
The GOAT of the trilogy. Portrayed by Topher Grace, who to this day has no idea why he was hired. Which is kind of funny. Like, he says it all the time. He's like, I have no idea how I got that job. Of course, directed by Sam Raimi, screenplay story by Sam Raimi, Ivan Raimi, who is his brother. So he really does work with his brothers all over the place, because Ted Raimi is in every film. And Alvin Sargent. And then, of course, the new thing is the newly renamed Sony's Spider-Man Universe, which I believe only includes Venom forward.
As of right now?
Yes.
Morbius.
Oh, that's true.
Soon.
That's fitting. Hashtag soon. And so he's portrayed by Tom Hardy, as everyone knows, directed by Ruben Fletcher, screenplay and story by Jeff Pinkner, Scott Rosenberg, and Kelly Marcel. And then, so the first Venom itself came out in 2018. Do you remember where you were when you first saw that trailer?
2018?
Yeah.
So 2018. So that's after.
Yeah, where does it sit on your timeline of MCU knowledge?
The Civil War came out 2016. That's when Spider-Man came. That's when Spider-Man got announced.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Spidey was first one. New Spidey.
So it's like, and that was a hit.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And then.
Yeah, we were in the office.
Yeah, and then Spider-Man movie, first one, Homecoming, right?
Mm-hmm.
That came out 2017, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see.
I think. I'm not.
Spider-Man Homecoming 2017. Look at you! Oh my god!
Sony saw the success of that. They were like, oh my god.
Cha-ching!
Yeah, they were like, oh my god, Tom Holland is killing it.
Yeah.
As Spider-Man.
Yep.
But he is technically MCU.
Yes.
So it's like, what can we do that, can at least combat that? This is like what I'm assuming they're thinking. That they just saw the success of the MCU Spider. They're like, we need to think of something.
We need to capitalize
on this. And they're like, well, his biggest villain ever is Venom. But we can't have them in the same movie together. But screw it. Let's do it.
They really took a chance because, like I just said, like the suit itself is like reliant on that. Like a big part of that suit's history is the fact that he was bonded to Spider-Man first. And so for them to really take that leap and just like go in,
because they don't have anything else. They can't announce anything else.
It's kind of wild that they were able to accomplish it. And so my first pop quiz for you.
All right.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Between the two films featuring Eddie Brock, and so I'm talking Spider-Man 3 and Venom 1. Which had the larger global gross?
Oh, damn it. I didn't pay attention to numbers in 2007.
Plot twist.
God.
Just base it off of your assumptions.
First Venom. I feel like the first Venom, it did well because people really wanted to see another on-screen Venom. Mm-hmm. But then after it came out, it just was like, what the fuck is this?
Oh my gosh.
Which is unfortunate. But then you come off Sam Raimi trilogy. Spider-Man 2 was a freaking hit. Right. Everyone loves Spider-Man 2. Yeah. Spider-Man 1 is obviously one of the like top, but
Spider-Man 2, oh yeah.
Spider-Man 2 is like was really good. So when you announced Spider-Man 3, you're like, oh, okay, this is good.
Yep.
But then Spider-Man 3 came out and people were like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I loved it because,
Yeah.
We got Junior Gobby. We got,
Gobby Junior.
Yeah, you got Sandman. You got. I
mean, I gotta say, like, I think we said this in another episode, but like Sandman was like chef's kiss. Honestly, he was great. Thomas Hayden Church was incredible.
His backstory also made me care about. That's why. That's why I thought it was like it wasn't that bad because you care about this character.
Yeah.
And then Topher Grace is just asshole. That's all it is. But it doesn't matter because you see him fight Venom.
Yeah.
And you get like an original Venom, like the symbiote touches Spider-Man first, and then Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
I want to bank on Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to bank just because I'm going and I'm just like I'm basing it off like hype now during that time because it's like
especially after Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 came out 2004. People were like what's the next one? Like you need a third one for the end of the trilogy. So then and at that time like superhero movies were like there was only a handful of them that were like
new line.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Sam Raimi trilogy was definitely people were like waiting for.
And of course by then he had established like two hits.
Yeah.
Let's go for a third.
So I want to say that one grossed more.
Well, sir, you would be correct.
Yes. I love you, Sam Raimi.
So Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 actually had a higher global gross than Venom 1, despite the fact that the MCU was hot. Like, we're talking 2018. It was literally 3 years ago,
Yeah,
but the film from 2007 banked more with 895 million worldwide, and Venom 1 at the time of this podcast 856 million. So they're really close.
Oh, wow.
But the fact that a film from 2007 featuring the character is technically doing better than the 2018 is kind of like mind-blowing in a way. That's wild, and so it shows the power of Sam Raimi.
In that world, in that Sam Raimi world.
Yeah, in the Sam Raimi world. And a few other analytics. Spider-Man 3 itself has a 30% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Whereas Venom has 63%.
Interesting.
And both have a cinema score of B+.
Interesting.
So for everybody who got on me for rating it 2.5 out of 5, please take those analytics. Because also, I don't mean it in a Tom Hardy was bad. I'm saying the overall film, for me, for Venom Let There Be Carnage, I was kind of like, yeah. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think, okay, let me just say it now. I said this to Geoffrey in a text the other day after I watched it. And I said, this is the worst analogy in the world. I said, Jeff, it's like a baked potato. Like, you liked it. You know it's a baked potato. And if you know me, I love baked potatoes. I love potatoes. And so it's like a baked potato where it just needed a little longer. In the oven. To get all around soft and good. And like the butter isn't quite melted and the cheese is kind of just plopped on there. It's not the gooey kind. That's kind of how I felt about the film.
I
it was
can
like
see
there
that.
and it was like, you know what? It's hilarious. It's got great talent in it.
It does.
But it's just off center. It's just off the mark a little bit. And if they just nudged it or let it bake a little longer, it would have been great.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I look at it.
I agree. Yeah.
And so I'm going to dive a little bit into the film history. And, we didn't start doing this until, I believe, Shang-Chi, where you don't really realize that a film that drops in 2000, in 2021, for instance, has a long lineage of, like, history behind it of like trying to get made.
Yeah.
And so I didn't expect to find anything when it came to Venom, but there is actually existing lineage for this in its production history. And so, if you would believe it, this film, the Tom Hardy, well, I don't know if it was the Tom Hardy film itself, but a Venom film has been in the process of being made since 1997.
Interesting.
Crazy, right? Yeah. And so, like, you know, we've briefly discussed before with characters that, you know, Marvel didn't, quote unquote, automatically have the rights to.
Yeah.
New Line Cinema was actually the studio that had, I guess, acquired the rights to produce a Venom film first. And of course, at that time, they were producing the Blade films.
Okay.
And so they kind of had that whole thing going on, and they were like, okay, great, we got Blade, we got 1 or 2 movies in the can, or 3, I'm not sure at the time.
Yeah.
Let's introduce another one, let's do Venom. And so they were going to do Venom, but with Carnage as the primary antagonist, which of course makes sense. But then, of course, Sony then acquired the rights. And they're like, haha, sorry.
No, can't do that.
Yeah, and so they took it away. And then there was additionally supposed to be a spin-off after Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
So before we saw Venom in Spider-Man 3, he was supposed to have a spin-off that then would introduce him and then segue him into Spider-Man 3.
Okay.
And so that was supposed to be in 2007. So it's kind of like the Spider-Man in Civil War, then Homecoming. It's exactly the same thing. So that was supposed to happen. And then by 2012, Sony was like, no, we want this film. And so they were going to make it, but Topher Grace was like, I'm out. Sam Raimi was like, bye. And so they revisited the idea once again after Amazing Spider-Man with Andy Garfield. And you won't believe who they tapped to potentially direct this film.
Who?
Does the name Josh Trank ring a bell to you?
Sounds very, it does.
He did a modern film called Fantastic Four in 2015.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
Yes. So that almost happened. And so, so they actually tapped Josh Trank to potentially come in. Can you imagine a Josh Trank Venom film? Wait, you haven't seen Fantastic Four.
There's a reason. There's a reason I haven't.
And
yet,
I have.
I can't bring myself to watch it. It's on Disney Plus. I was like, I always like, nah.
Yeah, no. And you know what? As somebody who loves the original 2, I watched it. Okay, I watched it. Honestly, as a film on its own,
sure,
it's not a bad film.
Sure.
But you try to make that into it. You try to convince me that's a Fantastic Four film.
It's not.
It's not a Fantastic Four film.
That's unfortunate.
It's a cool space, family, familial thing, but it's not the Fantastic Four. So that's what I have to say.
Rip.
But so imagine him doing Venom. That would have been an interesting thing, especially after Amazing Spider-Man 1, which is kind of like, okay, so this is again, like you just said, it's kind of Sony being like, let's capitalize on this.
Yeah.
And so they haven't changed their ways much at all. And then 2014 comes along, and they're still in talks about doing it. And it wasn't revived until 2016. And then finally, with Tom Hardy at the helm in 2018. So he's at a journey.
Did they approach Tom Hardy about doing Venom?
And the interesting thing is, and I found this is crazy. And so, not to jump ahead too much, but in the old infamous 2014 or whatever hack of Sony, it was uncovered that before Amazing Spider-Man 2 had actually been in production, they had casted or were in talks with Emma Stone to be Gwen Stacy, Tom Hardy as Sandman.
I can see that too.
So they were gonna revive that character again, maybe redo, and they were gonna have Tom Hardy play him. So that's kind of an interesting.
I can see that
spin.
too.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so that's all the film stuff. Now we're gonna talk about powers, and these are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Geoffrey, but I feel like these are pretty synonymous both ways, like from comic book to movie. But like I previously mentioned, alone the symbiote it augments the host's physical abilities to superhuman, standards, manifesting from its human host, like Spider-Man. Believe it or not, it has an immunity to spider sense, so he can like pounce on him. He can take him by surprise. Peter Parker cannot
sense him coming.
Sense him. No, that immediately gives him an incredible advantage when fighting Spider-Man in the comics. And again, symbiotic kind of property. So it has telepathy with the other symbiotes, so they can all communicate.
Hive mind.
Hive mind, yeah. Took the words right out of my mouth. It's a hive mind.
Scary.
It's very scary. And of course, temporal manipulation. I think we talked about that very briefly or sort of kind of in the Black Panther episode where, like for instance, when T'Challa has the suit on, or when he becomes, or when any Black Panther becomes the Black Panther, they then have the foresight and knowledge from the previous Panthers. Yep. The symbiotes are similar in that way, that they can project themselves and see through what all the symbiotes are seeing. They can displace themselves.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, geez, if they really do, go further with this character cinematically, I mean, the potential is insane. And then, Eddie as a human, he has no superhuman traits. He was a human. He's a basic human. Yeah. When that suit goes away, he is just Eddie Brock. Yep. Investigator. But yeah, he's he's commended on his investigation abilities. He's a pretty fair sleuth. And then after having the symbiote, he gets a little sharper. He becomes more of a huntsman, more of a marksman, if you will. But it's all thanks to the suit. And then I have another pop quiz for you.
All right.
So this is a little comic book bound. Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm curious.
Try it.
I'm curious to hear your answer. So, which of Peter Parker's notable supporting
Yes. You're right.
Yes. Which of Peter Parker's notable supporting characters bonded with the symbiote and became a superhero? And I have multiple choice.
Okay.
Was it Ned Leeds?
Ooh.
Harry Osborn?
Ooh.
Flash Thompson?
Ooh.
Or John Jameson Jr.?
Jr. Hilarious.
Jr.
Oh, and they became a superhero?
Superhero.
But it was the Venom symbiote?
Correct.
I want to say Harry.
Ned, Harry, Flash, or JJJ?
I want to say Harry. Oh!
And these are all characters that have been included in
I'm torn
films.
Between Harry and Flash for some reason.
Oh, yeah?
For some reason. I'm going to go Flash.
My face just now. With the half that won't
I'm going to go Flash.
Well done, sir.
Yes!
Woo! Yeah. So, in the comic books, for those of you who don't know, Venom, Flash Thompson, of all people, becomes Venom, but not Venom per se. He becomes Agent Venom. Because Flash Thompson, okay, so quick, let's go into Flash Thompson land real quick, because we're probably never gonna cover him as a standalone. Well, I not speak too soon, but in the comic books, he's the bully who grows to be Peter's.
Yes.
He's Spider-Man's biggest fan, then becomes Peter Parker's friend in college because they're like, all right, we're not children anymore, and then he goes off to war, and he loses his legs.
Oh no!
Comes back from the war, and he's like, well, I'm Flash Thompson, but I'm not Flash Thompson. He's Eugene. He's just Eugene.
Eugene?
His name is Eugene. Did you know Joe Manganiello? Joe
Manganiello?
He played Flash Thompson in the first Spider-Man movie?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Now that we watched that first Spider-Man movie, I'm like, none of these guys look like they're in high school. What the hell is this?
They're all 30s.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes back from war, he loses his legs, and he bonds with the symbiote, and then he goes on to become like the space defender, and he joins the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow. Jesus.
His suit is really dope though. Like not the Guardian suit, but the suit before, like as Agent Venom. His suit is awesome. I think it's
That's
like
just hilarious.
It's kind of weird at first glance because it's like a tactical version of Venom. Because he has like the chest thing and the shoulder pads and. But it's cool.
You're gonna show me
it's
this.
Cool. It's
You're
cool.
gonna show me
Yeah,
this.
no. And so the correct answer is Flash Thompson.
Hell yeah.
And speaking of hosts, we're gonna go down this quick line of people in the comic books who have took on the symbiote.
The Venom symbiote.
So of course Peter Parker, Eddie Brock, Scorpion. You know, that's Mac Gargan.
Okay.
Freya,
Yeah.
Flash Thompson, Lee Price, Talcar, and Malekith.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So if who of course is portrayed by Christopher Eccleston in Thor: Dark World. He's the Dark Elf for those of you who don't know. So imagine that guy with the symbiote.
That's interesting.
That's an
Very
interesting. Yeah. And so those are some interesting hosts for ya. And so from there we're gonna talk about the Familia a little bit. Like I mentioned, you don't really see it. I think cinematically they mention it a bit that he comes from a broken family and such.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna talk too much about the parents. But he does have a son in the comic books, and his name is Dylan. So he's Dylan Brock, and this is a strange one because Dylan Brock is Eddie's son with Anne, who we know. In the film is portrayed by Michelle Williams. And I don't know if you know this. Do you know this bizarre story about Jack Nicholson by chance, about his family?
No, I don't.
And so essentially, long story short, Jack Nicholson's mother had him during an era and at a young age that when she brought the baby home, her parents took care of him.
Okay.
And he was raised thinking his mother was his sister.
Thinking his mother
was his sister.
Oh my gosh.
And so that exactly. And so that is a very interesting facet of Eddie's family because Anne, while she bonded with the symbiote, which we see in the first Venom film, somehow she got pregnant when the symbiote bonded to her specific genome. She came back pregnant, had the baby, gave it to Eddie's dad, and then Eddie's dad raised Eddie and his son like brothers.
Jesus Christ.
As an older brother. Yeah, and so this is crazy. And this is this nuance alone, this characteristic of Eddie Brock's backstory. If the rest of it didn't convince you, he's a much darker rooted character.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just so nuts because you have all these components. It's more than just the cartoon version where he's like, I want to eat Spider-Man, and more than M&Ms and and so it's I can understand why they didn't kind of bring this they didn't focus on.
Yeah, that's dark.
It's very, very dark.
Very messed up.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like the very interesting family factoid for you, but of course with the symbiote, like we mentioned, it has its own children, many points during the books. The faces, everything. It just has babies.
Yeah.
It just does like a viral thing where it just like spawns. And it's very like aliens, I guess,
that's true.
They're asexual, just, created out of nothing. And so some notable ones are, of course, Sleeper, Scream, Toxin, who Toxin makes me want to vomit every time I see him, and Anti-Venom. And Anti-Venom, in particular, was an interesting twist because Martin Lee, do you remember who Martin Lee is? Mr. Negative?
Yeah, Mr. Negative.
He's from the first Sony Spider-Man game. And so he infused himself with the remnants of the symbiote and created Anti-Venom. So you start to see that if this thing comes in contact with some property that is abnormal, something happens. Something always happens. And so that's Anti-Venom. We haven't seen Anti-Venom yet. I almost thought that when I watched the first Venom film, I thought that that whole thing was Anti-Venom, but it was actually Riot, who we're going to talk about really quickly. Riot was born of a seed from Venom,
Okay.
With the Life Foundation, and I feel like this is a lot of what they pulled the Venom film from. Because the host was Trevor Cole, and then in the first Venom film, its host was Carlton Drake, portrayed by Riz Ahmed.
Yes.
And it's like described as a body hopper, so it like goes from host to host to host until it finds one that it's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna stay here.
Took forever to get to. Yeah,
I know, it was kind of nuts.
This one is traveling far.
Yeah, it was not so cuckoo. And then of course, this is funny because like we're talking about these alien spawn, and it's like part of Eddie Brock's family in a weird way, which then brings us to Carnage. And so Carnage is we're briefly introduced to him, not even him, to Cletus Cassidy at the end of Venom 1. And so Carnage in the book is gigantic. If you're a child of the 90s like I am, you probably saw the Sega Genesis or Nintendo game poster where it just had this like fiery looking symbiote like launching forward. And I think they used it for I think it was Maximum Carnage, the game.
Oh, okay.
And so like Carnage and Venom, like for me, aside X-Men, are such a thing of the 90s to me. Like it's 90s embedded in my head. You know what I mean? And so Carnage is the literal spawn of the symbiote itself. And it's more powerful than its parent. So
interesting.
Yeah. So, no spoilers, of course, but viewers will see in Venom Let There Be Carnage how Carnage comes to be and how powerful it really is. And in the comic books, so Venom, Eddie was in jail, Venom came to rescue him, so to rebond or whatever. And the spawn bonded to Cletus through a wound. So he got a wound in this process. And so once again, the symbiote is bonding with something and creating something new.
Oh, okay.
And so I guess the easy way of saying it is that the symbiote, despite it being black, having bonded with like straight up blood and a wound, made it red.
Oh, okay.
So that's how you kind of differentiate those two symbiotes. And of course, Cletus Cassidy in the movies is portrayed by Woody Harrelson in both films, and Vegas Jeff wanted to comment that he absolutely loves his hair. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely potential that we can talk more about Carnage if you want to do a Carnage episode at some point.
At some point, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, because he's... Like, I didn't even dare put... because I have him under adversaries and an antagonist as well for Venom, but I was like, I stopped myself and I was like, he's got so much, and we do have two films to kind of base a good comparison off of, so I think I'll save it for a little Carnage episode.
Yeah. And then maybe in that episode we can discuss more of the movie.
Yes, exactly.
I definitely have a lot of things to say that I will not say in this episode because the movie has not been out for more than a week yet when this releases.
Like
so
barely 48 hours.
Yeah.
Geoffrey and I are trying our damnedest to kind of keep it tight for everybody. And close to the chest, but so Venom's main adversaries, of course, Carnage, Null, if you will, because they all turn on the god and the head of the kingdom, if you will, eventually. And so Null, I wrote down, he's the eldritch god of darkness and the creator of the symbiotes, the King of Black storyline. And so that's again, it just came out, it just ended. So if you want to learn more about the symbiote history, go ahead and read that. It's great. And of course, adversary, who else? Spider-Man. So we know all about Spider-Man. There's nothing to say. Yeah, that guy. And so they have a tumultuous relationship, both professionally and personally, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, he's in and out, but he does become a superhero or not maybe an anti-hero.
I've always seen Venom as a anti-hero.
Yeah, he's
maybe.
Kind of
you really see that too in these two Venom movies too.
Yeah. It's like a good guy doing bad things.
Yeah,
I guess.
But he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But it's like,
yeah.
I just love. This is not a spoiler. I just love that when Venom and Carnage face off for the first time, Venom's like, "Oh, a red one." Like, no, I'm not dealing with this one. I'm like,
exactly. It's
hilarious.
It's so funny because like you kind of get the vibe of like, is that like a reflection of what it's like on Clintar,
on the planet, yeah.
on Clintar, like where they're literally they're all black, and then he's like, oh god,
red one,
or red ones and other colors like rare, you know. And so from that we're gonna hop on over to love interests.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, and so there's not. It's gonna be a little dark. So sorry. And so some quick mentions. Beck Underwood, a Skrull. He was kind of like entangled with a Skrull named M. Lands for a bit in the 90s. Lady Hellbender, which is kind of funny. She's more of a Hulk, not Hulk, but a Hulkish character. She's, you know, huge. She's buff. She could snap you on her knee.
Hell yeah.
And so she kind of fell for Venom, and more so for Eddie, but it was completely unrequited. Like she was chasing him, and he was like,
okay.
And then to bounce over to the films, you know, in Spider-Man 3, weirdly enough, Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because, you know, I thought about it, and we still haven't done our Gwen episode, and I just, like, I'm going to have so much to talk about. She's all over the board without being anywhere at all, you know, which is kind of weird if you think about it. And so, and so I rewatched a couple of the scenes from Spider-Man 3 before Jeff got here, and that scene where he's, like, taking pictures of her came up. And she's like posing, and then what did he say? He's like, says something about them bonding and like how really had a connection. And she was like, Eddie, we had a coffee. The way she says it. The way Bryce Dallas Howard. Like,
Bryce Dallas Howard. Yes. Oh my God, I was thinking Jessica Chastain.
No!
These
you
two.
Didn't. You did the common thing.
They did the thing.
Yeah, although she
Bryce
would have been great.
Howard.
Yeah, no, the other twin. Bryce Dallas Howard, the way she delivered the line was so exceptional. Eddie, we had a coffee. It's so European. Like, not we didn't have coffee. We had a coffee.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they had like that quick little stint in Spider-Man 3, or didn't, depending on how you think of it. And then bouncing back to a more familiar name, Anne Weying, who again is portrayed by Michelle Williams, in both Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage. And so this in particular, I say particular a lot. You know, when I listen to podcasts, I always like, what is the word that the hosts always say in repetition? And I was like, dang, I have one. Mine is particular. And so this character in particular. So, you know, in the films, she's portrayed as, she's a DA, first and foremost.
Yes.
And then she's his ex-fiancée.
Yes.
Whereas in the books, she's a lawyer. Is that different than it's different than a DA.
Well, DA, a district attorney is...
Is that like the baby version of a lawyer, no?
No, it's higher.
Oh, so it's the reverse.
Yeah. A DA is like, you're like head honcho.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
District attorney versus a lawyer.
Yeah. Like, you're not really going into court, but like, people report to you. Like, you have to take it up with the district attorney.
Got it.
Thing, if you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I paid attention in elementary school. Okay.
Yeah.
So they gave her an upgrade.
Yeah.
Which is, I think makes sense. But then they then made her an ex-fiance. Whereas in the comic book, she's his ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
So they took away that aspect of the relationship. So Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams didn't quite get to that point. Whereas the comic book version, they got married, they did the thing, and then they were like, nah. And then took it. You know, they're done. She's known as She-Venom and the Bride of Venom.
She-Venom. I mean, we saw.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of her.
We got a taste of that in the first movie.
Yeah, and you know, as I mentioned before, the mother of Dylan. And sadly, in the books, you know, like nuts. A trigger warning, I guess, is the right phrase to use here. But in the books, you know, after the thing with Dylan and how she brought him home to be raised by Eddie's family, after all of that is said and done, she unfortunately succumbs to the darkness of the symbiote. And whereas Peter Parker and Eddie Brock were like, no, I'm done. I'm going to go live my life. Unfortunately, Anne wasn't so fortunate, and she died by suicide. She couldn't take it. She couldn't take all of the chaos that she...
Yeah.
You know... and this is a lot about, again, how dark this character, Venom, and his world is. So unfortunately, she's not alive in the comic books. Who knows what they're going to do with Michelle Williams. That's going to be a very interesting take.
I wonder if there's going to be a third Venom movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they certainly could. I mean, you know, rule of three. But yeah, I don't know. And I do remember seeing that she's hoping that they might do a spin-off, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if you need a spin-off.
I don't know. Your character is good enough for them.
I don't know. I mean, but you know, that either way, it'd be cool to see her again. And hopefully she won't perish the same way that her comic book counterpart did. And then, last but not least, as far as love interests go, Venom. It's literally a symbiotic relationship. And so to your wording in the top of the show, it's them. They're like, it's a married couple. It's a movie about a married couple and a symbiotic relationship and the woes and the ebb and flows and all of that.
Yeah. I heard that Venom's lines are that you hear in the movie is Tom Hardy.
Yes.
And then, so like Tom Hardy would say those lines.
Yep. And
then when he has to act as Eddie Brock, he has an earpiece in his ear just so he can have like that conversation.
Which is crazy, right? And so for listeners who don't know, Tom Hardy also voices Venom. I don't know if it's true for Woody Harrelson and Carnage, but I mean, maybe it is. Maybe they auto-tune and stuff. I don't know. But yeah, so Tom is obviously like at peak Tom Hardy because he's like literally portraying two people or two.
Right.
Yeah, it's so good.
I love that.
And so that's honestly my favorite part about these two movies is just him
talking to himself. But he's hilarious. He's so also hilarious as Venom. He's
great.
Hilarious.
He's really, really great. I love it. If you want my rating just based on Eddie and Venom, that's a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
5 out of 5 easy.
Tom Hardy saves his
He does. Really?
being complete.
This is officially an ASMR podcast.
But yeah, Tom Hardy as Venom is probably the best decision
good.
Sony has made in a long time.
Yeah, aside Tom Holland, I would say. Yeah.
I'll give them 50% of the credit for that.
Okay.
50%.
And so from there, we're going to bounce on over to aesthetic, and which is basically the symbiote. He looks very much identical.
How he did in the comic?
At least in the Venom films. Spider-Man 3 was a little like, because like the...
Did we ever see, now that I think about it, did we ever see him like full on body like Venom in Spider-Man 3?
No, he always has that goop at the bottom.
Yes.
He's always in the sludge.
Yes.
Yeah, constantly.
Yes.
And
I mean, maybe saw like the face, but that was about it.
But even then, like it was, it's interesting because of, of course, first you have the black Spider-Man suit.
Yes.
But the first thing that I was like, black symbiote suit doesn't have all of the detail. It's supposed to be like, quote unquote, supposed to be just black.
Yeah.
It's just be opaque as the space. Like that's it.
Yeah.
So they kind of lost me there, but whatever. That's me talking. This is me too. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see it the way that they had it, and then to see Topher Grace's Venom constantly be in this like sludge puddle.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, and I feel like it was one of those things where they're like, he's a supporting character. Don't you dare cover his face all the time. So that's why they kept having that
like half the.
Oh my god! You know what drove me crazy though is that eyebrow just
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Perched up. I was like, God, just stop.
I know what you're talking about.
And it's like just clawing at his face. It was very strange, because as we see with the Venom films, it's more free flowing. It's more like, I don't know what the word is. Malleable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. I know
fluid.
what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's very representational of what I would expect a symbiote, quote unquote, to kind of act like if it were a real thing.
Yeah.
And so to see it in those two forms, it's just so. And also, you have to keep in mind, it's like 13 years later. It's going to be vastly different, especially when it comes to CGI.
Yep.
And it's like what you said earlier, no? About Andy Serkis and how
Oh yeah, I was saying that the pandemic saved this movie, at least the second one, the Carnage movie, because,
right?
Because I think Sony wanted to release the sequel like pretty quick. I think something about like within 8 months.
That's
kind of thing.
Bonkers.
Yeah, and it was just like, dude, like
they wanted to pull an Infinity War Endgame.
I don't even know.
Even that was like
I don't know
a year?
if it was 8 months after shooting or 8 months just to I don't know. It was, but regardless, it's a quick timeline for a mostly CGI character.
Yes.
And 8 months for anything, even for post production, is not that much time for CGI.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of time.
Crazy.
So Andy Serkis was saying that like he was like, yeah, that little extra time really helped us at least finalize some of like some part. I don't know about the whole movie, but some parts of Venom where it's like, okay.
That's interesting because I mean, like, to me, and again, this is kind of why I gave it a low personal rating, was that like the first time we see Carnage in full, I don't know if it was the treatment of that the symbiote in daylight, and that's why it looked a little weird to me, but I felt that it looked better as the movie progressed. And so I don't know if that's like
maybe
an aesthetic thing, or is that just the CGI was better?
Maybe, yeah, I mean,
like I don't know what
it's a lot. It's a lot of CGI.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
But yeah, I do like how it looked. I like how they looked. Like it looks like.
You know what's crazy? That the random thing I'm just gonna say about Carnage in particular, is that I love the sound of it screaming.
Yeah,
is that weird?
That one was kind of that one got me. Like that part. That's
so cool.
That detail for that character, definitely. I was just like, this is kind of fierce.
Yeah, it's like scary. He sounds like a dinosaur. Maybe that's why I like it.
Yeah,
but he's nuts. Like
yeah,
the scream is just like,
I was like, ah, it's like a screech. I'm like,
but yeah, you know, and so that's such an interesting thing, and so that kind of plays into the aesthetics and the symbiotes themselves. And the different shapes and sizes that they come in, but for as far as the two movies are concerned, I mean, Venom with Tom Hardy takes the cake. I mean, it's the closest thing you can imagine.
I think it's the most like accurate thing that, especially like, this is not a spoiler because there's images of it. Him in a rave.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
That's true. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Venom,
and it just took me into like cosplay land.
Like full on Venom, like. In a rave, just chilling
with
the glow sticks around.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah. And
he's like, yeah.
His voice is so great. Oh God, he's so great.
It's funny, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You know, I hadn't thought of it until you just mentioned it. Yeah, the Topher Grace version was just very goopy. Sludgy. He was always into sludge.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Wasn't really true Venom.
No. This one's like straight up true, and he's the right height. He's the right build.
Huge, like he's like
gigantic.
7 foot, 8 foot. Yeah. I don't even know.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it's like
towering. Like if I were to ever see, if you were to ever see him like face like Spider-Man or something, you'd be like, okay, yeah, that guy's kind of scary. Like,
yeah. And I mean, I have this poster that I picked up like some years ago from an artist at an artist alley at a convention. And it was just like the coolest thing because like, and I'm not one to usually pick up Spider-Man like battle posters at all. Like, I'm not that kind of collector. I'm more of, like you've seen my stuff. It's like, commissions and the like. But this poster was so cool. And like the way that what drew me to the poster wasn't Spider-Man. It was Venom, which shocked me because I'm not that fan. But they drew him in such like a huge presence sort of manner. And like Spider-Man is like diving into him with his, like he's punching him out, and Venom's like about to like crash through this building.
Yeah.
But it's so cool how they did it, and I get that sort of vibe when I see Tom Hardy's Venom, and so I'm kind of like, cool, all right, I like that kind of tribute to the comic book form.
Are you ready for the Venom at a rave cosplayers?
Yes. I can't wait.
There's gonna be at least a couple people.
Oh my gosh! So my first next convention for this season will be San Diego Comic-Con special edition during Thanksgiving weekend, and I don't know if I'm sure cosplayers will be out, but if I see one, I'm gonna be like, best of the show, best of show. Like someone's gonna.
And someone can do it like. At least like looking right too, like it's like a 6 foot tall Venom with just glow sticks all around him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so like I mentioned before, I mean, another variation of the suit in general is Agent Venom. Like, that's a big one. And it's very tactical, maybe I should pull it up right now so you can see Agent Venom. And of course, you know, like, I didn't mention them under the hosts, but among its very, 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 very many hosts, like 2 or 3 of the Guardians of the Galaxy have taken on the symbiote in the comic books.
Ooh.
And so imagine, if you will, my friend, Rocket Raccoon symbiote.
Oh my god.
So it looks like Rocket, symbiote on top of him.
That
and he goes, blam!
Probably haunting.
So here's Agent Venom. I like it. You know what? First I was like, that's dumb, because I'm a fanboy at heart. But then it started to grow on me. And it's neat, right?
That's cool.
It's cool, and I
can mess with that.
Right? Like, look at this. This is pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that's cool, right?
That's cool.
Yeah. And so he becomes a legitimate superhero. He's a superhero in this tactical gear.
Is that Venom? Scroll down. There's Venom with Flash Thompson. What is that?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's weird.
Imagine.
Oh, he wants to be.
Oh, he wants to be.
He wants to be. Okay, so Tony Revolori from the new Spider-Man films apparently has expressed interest in being Agent Venom. I mean, is the world ready for that?
Just hilarious.
That's kind of wild. I mean,
we'll see. This whole talk, dude. These whole talks of just like kind of going off tangent a little bit.
Yeah.
This whole talk of just like different universes now, like Sonyverse, you know, multiverse, MCU, X-Men, and it's just like, everyone's doing like a universe thing now, and it's kind of just like, all y'all were talking shit on Marvel the last like 10 years, saying like it could never work, creating a central universe, cinematic universe. No, that's stupid. And what is everyone doing? They're creating universes.
Yeah.
Pisses me off.
It's people always, you know, bitch and moan until it comes to fruition, and then they're about it.
They're like, oh my god, it's making $1 billion. Maybe we should start doing something like that.
It happens. It happens. And so yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see some more Venom.
Every time you say Venom, I just think of the Eminem song.
So good.
I mean, I would like to.
When you know, you'll know.
Yeah, I would like to. Like, Tom Hardy's like, you know, after seeing these last 2 movies, he's an amazing Eddie Brock.
Yeah. Oh, he's great.
So it's like...
Couldn't ask for better, honestly.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for better.
Yeah.
I had games on here, but I don't know that we need to talk about games. We just talked about games a little bit. But I digress.
He's coming.
In Sony Spider-Man 2.
He's coming.
He's gonna be in that game. So sometime, quote unquote, sometime in 2023.
Is that when they said they were gonna release it?
That's apparently when they're gonna release it. That's why I'm like, I hope I have a PS5 by then. Can I get a PS5 in 2 years? I don't know, maybe.
Hope so.
We'll see.
Jesus,
yeah,
man.
it's crazy.
I'm looking forward to that.
So that's gonna be an interesting take, because there are some theories that I will not discuss here, but there's some theories on who is under that suit, who was the host of that Venom. And who's to say? Because, you know, Sony's Spider-Man game universe is also another universe.
Mary Jane.
I mean, she's voiced by Laura Bailey, who is tremendous in the voiceover community.
Yeah.
She was also, you know, Abby in The Last of Us. Me talking about The Last of Us at random again.
Nice.
And she was actually also the very first no, sorry, that was Ellie. Just kidding. She's also portrayed, I believe, Gwen Stacy in another video game though, but she's great. That'd be funny if she was. But you know, Venom's gonna go after Mary Jane, so that something's gonna happen.
I love how they released Miles Morales game first before the sequel to that.
Oh,
first.
It's perfect.
So now it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
now it's Miles Morales and Peter Parker.
Yeah. And not to segue, but I believe they said there is no co-op, right? You can't play 2 people. Like, you couldn't be Miles and I couldn't be Peter.
I don't think so, because these are.
Boo!
Maybe they might change it for that, but like those games are like the single player campaign. Yeah, it might be like the first one, where like you'll play as Peter. Yeah, but you can also play as Miles. Yeah, you're not as Spider-Man, but as Miles Morales
and Mary Jane
or Mary Jane. So
you know what I want? More tangent. Why can't I play as Black Cat? Why? Tell me why. Because that character and her
the amount of sexual tension that Black Cat and Peter Parker have, I was not ready for that at all.
She's incredible, right? I was like holy smokes. If you have not played Sony Spider-Man and then the DLC components with Black Cat,
I know. I just watched some of the walkthroughs of the DLC.
She got chutzpah.
And I was just like, in my head, I was like, Peter, just leave Mary Jane, bro. Come on, man. yeah, she's conniving and everything, but dude, come on.
Oh God, we're going down Black Cat lane now. I love that in the game. I'm so sorry for everybody who do not care about Black Cat, but I'm gonna make you care right now. But I love how like Aunt May in the game is even like, oh, are you seeing that older girl again? And he's like, no, and then like the whole implication that they had a son.
I know.
I was like, what does that say about you, Peter Parker?
That threw me. I was like, Peter. How dare you?
Oh my God, scandalous.
Oh my God. But oh my God.
But also, Peter.
So I was not prepared for that amount of sexual tension.
It was great. It's fantastic. And and I can't remember the actress's name, but she is so good. Yeah. She's so good as Felicia. I was like, wow, I wish I could have that voice. Her voice is
kills it. It definitely kills it.
So great. Holy moly.
But yeah, definitely excited for the sequel.
Yeah,
to see how Venom gets portrayed and if he'll be the main bad guy.
Yeah.
Because usually those trailers never really. Because like even with the first one, you thought Mr. Negative was the real bad guy.
True. Yeah.
That was literally not at all. He was only one of them. He was one of them. I can say he was one out of the 6. And I was like, oh my God.
6 or 7?
Was it?
I want to say 7.
It was 6.
Was it 6?
Yeah,
was
because the 5 broke out of the raft.
Got it.
And then you were like, who's the 6th person? And you're like, oh my God, it's Dr. Octavius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely right.
So we'll see like
2023.
how that plays out.
Do you think that they're going to release anything from Miles Morales in that time?
Like
as a jumper?
Like another game?
Another DLC. Before we see Sony Spider-Man 2.
I haven't even played the Miles Morales game in a while. I know there's some DLCs for it. Is there? For the Miles Morales game?
I don't know.
I don't know. Think about it. I haven't really kept up with it.
I don't remember.
But
I don't think so.
I don't think so
Which
either.
I think people were like kind of upset about. But it's also because anymore, more PS5 talk. That's why.
Yeah.
But
so we'll see.
And also, we're about to get Activision's Guardians of the Galaxy, which I pre-ordered. So I'm gonna have that in a couple of weeks.
And then Spider-Man's getting added into the Avengers.
Oh wow, I said that very terribly.
This is not all by coincidence. Like this is
no, and we've talked about this before. It's like with the books and how they Doctor Strange is dying in the book. He's dead in the book. Wow, what comes out in February? Oh, is it Doctor Strange 2?
Wanda kills Doctor Strange. I'm calling it.
And then Wanda died in the books, and you're like, what's happening? No, it's. This is all
anything
planned.
Can happen at this point.
We're Charlie Day.
I'm just ready for pain.
Let's go.
I love pain.
It's like the Marie Kondo meme, but instead of mess, she says pain.
Just pain. I love pain. I'm ready for heartbreak at all times.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Favorite part of the show? Almost was. I don't know if it's a favorite. There's so many favorites. I have many favorites. Quizzes are probably number 1.
I'm always very curious when we get to this part of the show.
It's fun. And so, shockingly enough, I did not find much whatsoever. Okay. But we have two on the rumored list that were kind of like, I assume that they tested. Interesting choices. Because it kind of put, again, you take Topher Grace.
Yeah.
And you put him in a pool with Tom Hardy. You're like, they have nothing in common. One had frosted tips. The other one is just an awesome Englishman. Is he not? And so the two actors on the rumored list. You ready for this?
Yes.
Liam Hemsworth.
Okay.
Baby Hemsworth, baby Thor was up for Venom. And we're talking Venom 2018. We're talking Tom Hardy.
Okay.
And so Liam Hemsworth tested for Eddie Brock. Or was rumored to be Eddie Brock. And Armie Hammer
Interesting.
Who is now apparently a cannibal.
I was like, what? I was like, oh.
I know, I didn't realize it until I just So those two are apparently the rumored. And then again, back to the old Sony hack of 2014. While the leaks of Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy and the potential of Tom Hardy as Sandman came out, one candidate who was apparently, like, they were gonna lock it down with him, Channing Tatum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Right? And so I'm almost like, okay. But think about this timeline. I don't remember what year it was because I blocked it out of my mind. But when he got announced as Gambit.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were like, so Fox wants to give you Gambit. Sony wants to give you Venom. Which one do you want to be? And he was like, I'm going to choose Gambit.
Gambit.
And then did not get either one.
I know. Poor guy.
Shucks. Well, he got Zoe Kravitz, so there's that.
Very true.
He won. It's fine. And you know, I meant to send this to you before we were recorded today because I desperately need you to watch it. But I had to mention, beyond all of that, because those were all the only candidates, by the way. But beyond all of that, there was this 2013 independent short film called Truth and Journalism.
Okay.
And anytime people are like, oh, Venom, they mentioned Venom in some capacity, I'm like, have you seen Truth and Journalism? And it's this film by Joe Lynch, and he has what he calls and has dubbed himself the bootleg verse. Speaking of multiverse. So he made these bootleg films, okay? And one of them happens to be with Eddie Brock and Carnage, what am I saying? Eddie Brock and Venom. And it was starring Ryan Kwanten.
Okay.
Do you know that name at all?
No, I don't think I do.
So Ryan Kwanten is the fabulous actor who portrayed Jason Stackhouse on True Blood.
Okay.
And so he's basically Anna Paquin's brother. And so he portrayed this character. He portrayed Eddie Brock, but set in the 80s. Like, it's almost like a noir film because it's black and white.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the budget was like, I don't know. It wasn't like a film. It's an independent film, so it couldn't have been more than 5 figures, I think.
Sure.
And he was able to make this incredible, in my eyes, this incredible like 8 or 13-minute piece that just like covers all of these like crazy Easter eggs from the comic books.
Okay.
And I think he did it very well. Like the Venom suit itself, like it's a person in a suit. It's kind of like kitschy, but I just think it's so cool. I would love for you to watch it. And then he also did like a Punisher film with what's his name? Tom Jane.
Okay.
Who was I believe the second Punisher? Second.
Okay.
I'm gonna say second. Anyway, 2004 film. He was great. He did a bootleg verse with the actual Punisher actor.
Wow.
After he had done the film.
Interesting.
And that is called Dirty Laundry.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I don't think there's much dialogue in it at all, and it takes place in a laundromat. Punisher in a laundromat with a gang of like miscreants.
Yeah.
Mobsters.
Trying to kill him. Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Works on.
So good. It's so good. And so, I mean, like, unfortunately, Truth and Journalism has been pulled from YouTube for various reasons, but I'm going to link the Vimeo because it's still on Joe Lynch's like Vimeo account. So I'm going to put that in the show notes if you'd like to watch it. And I highly recommend it because it's a fun take on the character and it kind of gives you a feel for like a noir 80s Eddie Brock played by Ryan Kwanten. And it's funny enough because this was the same year that, like, I don't know what season of True Blood it was, maybe 5 or 6. I used to love True Blood. And I went to Comic-Con that year. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to see if I could maybe get a raffle to meet the cast.
Yeah.
I got it.
You
I
do.
freaking got it. And I got it. And so I got to meet them, and one by one, and my meeting them was after the panel for the Venom thing. So I watched the Truth and Journalism at Comic-Con, presented by Joe Lynch himself, and Ryan Kwanten was there. And then I got to meet Ryan after the thing. And so when everyone else was talking to him about, oh, I love Jason Statham, because he's like a hottie. He was a hottie on the show. Always shirtless, always pretty much naked. You know, he's that character. And so my nerdy ass runs up, and I'm like, hi, Ryan Quanten. So about truth and journalism. And he was like elated to talk about it.
Hell
he
yeah.
Was so, he's like, oh yeah, you liked it? You went to the panel, eh? Yeah, it was a great film. Like, and he was like so like taking the fact that I actually genuinely enjoyed it. And so I'd like forever have that like embedded in my mind, because he was like not only like the sweetest ever, but he really like he loves comic books. I don't think people realize he loves it because he's so off the radar. And so I would love to see him in a film one day. As who? I don't know. Because he was, I mean, not to go into DC land, but he was kind of my first choice for Aquaman.
Ooh.
Yeah. But, you know, we have Jason Momoa, so that's cool.
Works out.
But yeah, so please check out Truth in Journalism, linked in the show notes. How about one last pop quiz?
Oh.
This one's a fun one.
I'm 2 for 2 right now.
Okay. This is a very strange one, just in that it's so left field. But, so in the comic books, there is a particular item that the Brockmen choose to not put on hot dogs. They just don't, they will not put this condiment. Your face is so brilliant. I wish we could live stream sometimes just because it's so good. So, what condiment? He hates me so much right now. Which condiment does not have a place on hot dogs with the Brockmen? Name any condiment. What is, if Eddie Brock is walking down
and he's getting a hot dog
in Midtown, and he stops at the cart and he's like, yo, Al, give me one of those dogs.
But without.
I want this, and that, but don't you dare put the.
But hold the.
Hold the. What is the hold?
Oh my God. Die.
Yo, the people have spoken. They love the quizzes, and this is like sensational.
I
can hear everybody at home like yelling in their car, like commuting, like, it's this. I know it.
I want to say like.
Okay, well, let me start with this. What do you not like on your hot dogs?
Oh, relish.
Yeah, see, everybody's got a thing.
Yeah.
I'm one who's like, I'll take mayo and ketchup. Not ketchup. Mayo and mustard.
A lot of people hate mustard.
Why?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. And people are like, please, no mustard. And I'm like,
why? Well, there's deli mustard and there's yellow mustard.
There's
Dijon and Grey Poupon.
Yeah, but I also know people. I have some friends who deathly hate ketchup.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Some I even know who are afraid of ketchup.
Okay, afraid isn't that's like those Jerry, was it Jerry Springer or Maury shows where they would bring pickles out and torture people?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a phobia.
And there's like it's a close friend of mine
because,
too. A close friend of mine.
Because I mean, I will say
he hates ketchup.
I'm one of those people who is very picky about particular versions of things. And so I like onion rings, for instance. I don't like animal style. I don't like onions on my hot dogs. I like pasta sauce.
I know a lot of people who hate onions.
Yeah,
I love them. I love all forms of onions.
But like with tomatoes, like I like tomato sauce. I'll eat spaghetti for days. Pasta, sure. I don't like tomatoes.
Can I reassure myself? Like, can I reassure myself in like on the record?
What?
I love guacamole, but I do not like eating sliced avocados.
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Like when you take out and people just like slice. I don't like.
And it's very Filipino.
I don't like eating it in that form, but I love guac.
Have you tried the Filipino style? Which, by the way, happy Filipino Heritage Month.
Yeah.
From your two Filipinos over here.
Which one? Which?
Slice
it up and then put like what? Like
salt? milk and ice and sugar. And sugar.
No, I don't. No.
I don't do that either. My mother loves it.
I don't know.
But but whereas I like avocado in some capacity, did not like guacamole until a year ago.
Okay, interesting.
Palate.
Yeah.
Can I also say that my mouth is now I can move my mouth after the course.
Yes.
After the course of the show, this is the miracle that is Geoffrey.
Look, I didn't eat seafood, but then I went to Hawaii a month ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm like willing to be like, let's go and try it and eat it.
That's a big move.
Huge.
You can sushi now.
Yeah. Huge. I'm not saying I'll like it, but I'm willing to be like, let's go.
You're open to it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I am sure that Eddie Brock will not be open to this condiment if you can guess it. I feel like it runs in the family.
And it's a traditional
tradition.
comment.
None of the men in the family will partake of this condiment on their hot dogs.
I want to say mustard.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you just broke your streak.
Ah! What is it?
Ketchup.
Really? Oh my god. The reason I said ketchup was because it's like it symbolized blood or whatever. I was like, you know what? Maybe they like it.
No. Does not like ketchup. They will not have ketchup on their hot dogs.
Bullshit.
Although your reasoning is very good. Like that makes sense to me.
Right?
I don't know why they don't like ketchup. They don't like ketchup. So if you're ever in the scenario or circumstance where Eddie Brock is asking you for a hot dog, don't put ketchup on it. Don't do it.
So good. It's literally one of the only two choices they give you when you go anywhere.
Yeah. Mustard or ketchup.
Yeah.
And he's like, mustard.
I am really sad at Costco anymore. They don't have the onion part section.
They don't do the thing. Yeah, right? And do they relish?
No, it's only just mustard and ketchup. But I think it's a COVID thing. But
It's a COVID thing, I think.
But I'm just like, or dirty dogs.
What's dirty dog?
Like LA street dog?
Oh, yeah. No. Those are good.
The best.
Yeah.
The best.
Bacon? Wait, quick question.
Yeah.
Hot dogs or corn dogs?
Hot dogs. I mean, I like a good corn dog, but hot dogs.
Okay.
But I was gonna say horn dogs.
Can I just very quickly? Can I just say, like, when we do Daredevil, like they call them Hornhead. I don't know. I feel like that's something like Felicia Hardy would do, but horn dogs.
I was gonna say with hot dogs, it's pretty. I mean, this is coming from me, personal opinion. They're versatile.
Yeah.
A corn dog, it's a hot dog in a batter, and like that's pretty much it. You can just put whatever sauces on top, whatever it is. But then with a hot dog.
But have you tried a Korean corn dog?
Yeah. Now we're gonna bring like.
Now
we're gonna bring like.
This is a hot dog podcast now.
Now we're gonna bring cuisines into this.
No.
Like now we're gonna bring like like Korean.
When we talk about Spider-Gwen, her favorite food is corn dogs. So, and she's a purist. Mustard only. So she and Venom would get along.
Yeah, I like hot dogs just because you can use packed stuff on there. Would it get messy? Yeah.
Question?
I don't care.
Is it a sandwich or a hot dog?
Is that even a sandwich? Isn't it a no? Oh, is that the argument? Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I think it's actually tacos, but I'm just saying.
Or a burger. I don't know, man.
Wait. Some suggested reading for Venom, but you did well. You did well, by the way. Ketchup is unsuspecting.
Right?
Yeah, it is Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock.
Come on, man.
Come on, Eddie. Come on. So before we end the show, some suggested reading. Of course, once again, King in Black, 2021. It's a 2021 title. Follow the main title or all of the books, which crossed over into many titles. With Donny Cates at the helm, tremendous guy, and Ryan Stegman. He's so funny. Ryan Stegman's the guy that I showed you the tweet yesterday.
Yes.
If you know, you know. Of course, Venom solo title from 2018, once again with Donny Cates. Venom Lethal Protector from 1993 with David Michelini and Mark Bagley, who is, again, another big name in the Spider-Man universe. And, of course, anything with Todd McFarlane's name on it, because it's classic. It's just classic.
Yeah.
You just do it. So, yeah. That's Venom.
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 Go watch Let There Be Carnage, guys.
Watch Let There Be Carnage, guys.
No! I'm hungry!
Thanks for listening. We are a great salute to Jenny, Claire, Melanie, Andrew, Ed, Liz, and Robin. Once again, like I've mentioned this on our Patreon and in a couple of these episodes, but we have an awesome freebie coming that's like celebrating our first 10 episodes, and I haven't had time to like finish it, but it's coming and it's gonna be available to everybody on the $3 tier and up. Woo. So if you're not a Patreon yet and you'd like to become one and support the show or my root canal today, feel free to join. And then follow us on social at STRKCNTRST. If you search a stark contrast, it comes up. And if you like what you hear, hit that like button or subscribe.
Tell your friends. Just tell your friends.
Share and care.
Share it. Yeah. Follow us.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Buddy, I'm the only person that took you in when your friends kicked you off the planet Mingmong because you are a reject. You are a pariah. Lethal protection, my ass. You couldn't protect anything. You are useless. You can get a job down here cleaning toilets.
I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please let me fix it.
How about it?
So I can bring it again.
Hey guys, if you made it to the end of this episode, I just want to say spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Thank you for making it to the very, very end of this episode.
Crazy.
And we just want to like reward you guys with a spoiler alert.
Spoiler.